brief kind of grounding meditation for us to arrive. And then we'll go through some announcements and the schedule for the day and kind of what to expect. But if everybody could mute yourselves, actually, if you aren't muted already, so we can get rid of background noise. Or Wesley, maybe you can mute everyone. Yeah, thanks. And then if you could just come to a comfortable seated position with your feet flat on the floor and sitting up straight and tall. You can let your eyes gently close if you're comfortable with that. I have this meditation bell here that I'll be using today. So I'll ring the bell once to start just now. And you can just allow the sound of the bell to bring you right into the present moment. And settling in, just arriving here and now. And you might deepen your breath, taking a few full, deep breaths. You might breathe in through the nose and sigh out through the mouth, just softening, relaxing. And feeling your feet pressing into the floor, feeling all the points of contact your body is making with the chair beneath you. And letting go of whatever has come before and whatever is coming next. Just allowing yourself to arrive fully right here and now. Just coming right to this present moment. And as we embark on this time together today, I'll just invite us to also sense into our interconnection with everyone else in our state, in our country, in our world. As Desmond Tutu wisely said, we are made for goodness. We are made for love. We are made for friendliness. We are made for togetherness. We are made for all of the beautiful things that you and I know. We are made to tell the world that there are no outsiders. All are welcome. Black, white, red, yellow, rich, poor, educated, not educated, male, female, gay, straight, all. We all belong to this family, this human family, God's family. And you can stay with the sound of the bell for as long as you can hear it, and then opening your eyes when you're ready, coming back to our shared virtual space. So good morning again, everybody, and thank you so much for being here today. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. We only have a couple of hours together, which is actually really a very short time to begin to explore mindfulness and compassion practices. So I won't have any breaks built into this time. But of course, please take care of yourself and use the restroom or whatever if you need to. I would ask that if possible, everybody please leave your cameras on during this time. At least give some virtual version of being in community together. Of course, if you have a particular reason to need to have your camera off, that's okay. But it helps to have a sense of community if we can actually see each other. Hold on, let me see. It looks like somebody's having trouble hearing. Is anybody else having trouble hearing?
So yeah, I think that's it in terms of kind of logistical things. But just to quickly go through our plan for these next little more than a couple of hours or so, is that in a few moments we'll spend some time introducing ourselves, and then I'll give a talk for maybe half an hour or so about mindfulness and about our practices for today. And then we will have a meditation for 20 or 30 minutes or so, and it will be guided. So not to worry, I'll walk you through that. Then we'll have a chance for some discussion as a group, questions and answers, and also just sharing about the experience in the meditation. And then I'll spend about 10 minutes or so talking about mindfulness in daily life and how to incorporate these practices kind of off the cushion, so to speak. And then we'll have a second opportunity to meditate as a group. Really, these practices are deeply experiential. We can talk about them or read about them all day long, but fundamentally, they are practices of experience. And so the more time we have together to actually do the practices, the better. And after that second meditation period, I'll briefly share just a few resources for further practice, which I'll also email out to the group when we're done. And then we'll have a final brief closing. So any questions about the plan before we jump into that? No? Okay. So when I was planning for today, it was really pretty hard to narrow in on what to focus on, as there are so many different ways to practice mindfulness and compassion through meditation, and today will just give us a small taste. But I decided to focus in on mindfulness of the body, and I'll explain why in a moment. But first, it's important to define what I mean when I say mindfulness. In short, mindfulness is a state of open awareness in which we are paying attention to what's happening in the present moment purposefully and with a kind and compassionate inner landscape. So we're awake, alert, attentive, and also relaxed, allowing, and non-judgmental. So there are two very simple inquiries that can help us to stay mindful. The first is, what's happening right now in my experience? And the second is, can I be with it? So this question of what's happening right now in my experience invites us to pay a really exquisite kind of attention to whatever is arising in the moment, in our bodies, in our hearts, in our minds. We just simply notice what is here and bring a really alive kind of curiosity to the senses, to the body, to the breath. And then the second question of can I be with it invites us to simply allow our experience to be as it is, to hold it with a kind and compassionate attention. Notice, and this is really important, the question is not can I fix it, or can I change it, or can I manage it somehow? It's just, can I be with it? You know, we're generally so oriented to fixing and changing things that it's a real shift and kind of a radical one to just be with our experience as it is. And this is precisely why we practice mindfulness, because it's a way to shift how we habitually show up in our lives. So what does it mean to be with whatever is arising in our experience? I often talk to folks about learning to be with our experience in the same way that you would be with a beloved, right? To be with your experience with the same attitude and orientation that you would bring in your best moments to your child, to a grandchild, to a pet, to a lover, to a dearest friend. So the invitation is to be with yourself with a lot of tenderness and care and kindness. People often talk about mindfulness as paying attention to the present moment without judgment, and that is certainly true. And once we slow down and start paying attention, we really begin to see how frequently we are judging ourselves and our experience, often in very subtle ways. So it's useful to have that intention to not judge our experience. But I'll say in my own journey of meditation, I have really benefited from shifting that idea of non-judgment even further, right? To say that mindful attention is not merely the absence of judging. Instead, it's the presence of a radically loving attention, an attention that allows, embraces, and loves whatever it encounters, even the difficult or unpleasant experiences. When we can learn to relax and soften towards our own experience, we are growing our capacity for love, for compassion, for joy, for equanimity, and for peace. Ultimately, our experiences will be what they will be, and as 2020 has certainly proven, We will encounter hardship, right? And challenges in this human life. It's part of the deal. We can't escape it. But being mindful helps us learn to relate differently to our experiences. We can learn to be more responsive to what is happening in our experience instead of merely reactive. And as we slow down and learn to pause in this way, we can clearly see that things are certainly not always perfect. We know that, right? 2020 has been proof of that. But we can learn to trust our capacity to be with ourselves and others with compassion and care, even and especially when things are hard. We can see clearly that things are not as personal as they sometimes feel. And we can see clearly that things are always changing, and we need not be as caught up and overwhelmed as we often are. So by practicing being mindful, we can hold things a little more lightly while still allowing ourselves to be fully present to both the suffering and the joys of this world and of this human life. So we're mindful when we are paying attention to what's arising in our experience on purpose with a really loving and compassionate attention. Some of you know I'm a big music fan, and one of my favorite artists, the musician Trey Anastasia, sings, "It's love and it's love and it always was, and it is and it always will be love." He says, "We move through stormy weather. We know that our days are few. We dream and we struggle together, and love will carry us through." So we practice letting our loving attention carry us through whatever we encounter. Right? So those are the questions. What is happening in my experience right now? And can I be with it in a friendly and loving way? We meditate not because meditation is itself something magical, though sometimes it can feel that way, but because when we meditate, we are practicing being mindful. If mindfulness is the state, right, it's a state of loving awareness, then meditation is the training ground that helps us learn how to hang out in that state. Because while mindfulness is quite a natural human state, think how mindful children are, right? When they're totally absorbed in an activity. So it's quite a natural human state. Still, as we grow older, we can unlearn it, right? We get pulled into more future-oriented thinking and more past-oriented thinking. With more demands and worries and regrets, it's easy to get pulled out of the present moment. As the Dalai Lama has said, some of your thoughts don't have your best interests in mind. And so we meditate to practice coming back to this present moment with a gentle and kind attention again and again. And this is where I get to the body and why we'll meditate today, mostly using the body and the senses as the anchor for our attention in the present moment. There's much to be said about this, but suffice it to say that we experience the present moment through our bodies, through our senses. It's the only way we know the present moment. We feel, see, hear, taste, smell the present moment, and all of that happens through our bodies. It sounds very obvious in some ways when I say it, but it's amazing how much time we tend to spend disconnected from or cut off from our bodies. Even just right now, as you're sitting here, I want to invite you to intentionally feel your feet on the ground, right? As you continue to hear my words, can you feel your feet on the ground? Can you feel the points of contact your body is making with the chair beneath you? Can you just drop in and fully inhabit your body, be present, even as you listen? Were you even aware, right? Were you even aware that you were here in your body until I called your attention to it? Many of us are not, and yet it can be incredibly grounding and supportive to intentionally come home to these phenomenal bodies that we have the truly miraculous gift to be inhabiting. The other great thing about using the body as the focal point for our meditation is that it has so much wisdom to share once we start really paying attention. Our emotions are experienced through our bodies. So if you want to understand your emotional life better, it really behooves you to start getting more curious about what's happening in your body. Our thoughts also impact our bodies Anybody who's ever felt their heart race or their palms get sweaty when they're anxious knows that, right? And our bodies also impact our thoughts. So it's all in the mix there together. And befriending our physical selves can really be a huge support to living more mindful lives. Particularly in such chronically stressful times as we have been living in these past months, the body tends to carry lots of tension, and we're often unaware that this is even true. When we meditate with the body as the object for the meditation, we can invite a natural softening and letting go when we encounter tension that we may not have even known was there. Now, the point of the meditation is not to somehow magically dissolve all tension, just to be clear, right? There are different practices that are intentionally about relaxing, but this mindfulness meditation that we're practicing today is not about necessarily relaxing. The point of the meditation is to practice bringing this kind, loving, compassionate attention to whatever is arising in your experience once you really start to look. Okay. Now, quite often, just by bringing a compassionate attention to a tight or stuck place, that place will automatically soften. But if not, you can just notice the tightness and soften towards it, again, with a lot of kindness and compassion, and allowing the tightness to be just as it is. You can get curious about it, get familiar with it, and again, learn to relate to it differently. So the tightness is what it is, but can you relate to it with more softness, with more kindness, with more compassionate understanding? So there's much more that could be said about meditating on the body, but these practices are fundamentally experiential, as I said when we started. So it's best if we just try it out together, and we'll do that in a little bit. And you can just see for yourself. But before we practice together, there are just a few other things that I do want to say. First, and some of you will have heard this before, but I want to dispel one major meditation myth that I hear from people all the time. And that is that if you can't quiet your mind, then you aren't good at meditation, or you can't meditate. It's not for me. I can't do it. I can't get my mind quiet. I hear that all the time. But I want to be very clear that in mindfulness meditation, we are not simply trying to clear the mind or empty the mind. Again, and I know I may sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but it warrants repeating. What we are practicing is bringing a loving and compassionate awareness to whatever is arising in experience. So please do not beat yourself up if when we get quiet, you notice a lot of thoughts when we're meditating. Indeed, beating yourself up would be judging, wouldn't it? And we're trying to love whatever we notice in our experience rather than judge it, right? So rather than beat yourself up for thinking, you can just lightly and kindly name thinking, and then refocus your attention in the body wherever I'm guiding the meditation in that moment. Let the body be like an anchor for your attention, a place to come back to, a place to come home to, whenever your mind tries to pull you away into thinking, which it will. You can just kindly and gently say thinking, or planning, but try not to indulge the thoughts or let them kind of get a hold of you. Just notice that thought is happening and redirect your attention to the body again. Every time you catch yourself getting lost in thought and can bring your attention back to the present moment, as experienced in your body, you're building sort of the muscle of mindfulness. And please don't get yourself in trouble for getting lost in thought. We all do it. Remember, we're practicing cultivating a loving and kind attention. So when you notice you've been pulled away, it's not, there you go, thinking again, right? That's not the energy that we want. More of, okay, thinking, got it, thanks, not now. And then coming back to the body. So cultivating a kind inner voice. And if you do, by the way, notice getting yourself in trouble or saying, I can't do this, I can't meditate, you can just notice that. You can include that in the meditation as well. Oh, judging. And then relaxing back again, softening again into the body, coming home again to the present moment as experienced through the senses in the body. And I'll guide you through all of this when we're actually doing the practice, but wanted to give a little background about that before we start. I also want to share a bit, and this feels especially important right now, and as our country sort of is on tenterhooks waiting to see what happens next. And it's been a really important year of racial reconciliation, or at least the beginnings of that. There's a lot that needs to be done in our world, as some of you were naming as we introduced ourselves, right? A lot to be done around racism and justice and rights for all different sorts of people, right? And I could go on about that for a long time. That's not the point, but I do want to share something about the relationship between this very internal practice and our external lives. Meditators can sometimes be accused of navel gazing, of spending time in solitary and selfish pursuits that are all focused on ourselves. And there is certainly a lot of privilege involved in having the safety and time and resources to be able to, say, go away on a meditation retreat, right? Or participate in a teacher training program, as Kath and I had the great privilege to do, or even to participate in this workshop. So I do want to acknowledge that. That said, while meditation itself is an internal experience, it can profoundly support a direct knowing of the truth of our interconnection with others. As we learn to bring this loving and compassionate awareness to ourselves and our experiences, we also learn to be more loving and compassionate with others in the world, including people across all kinds of lines of difference. As we learn to soften towards and make space for all parts of ourselves, we are more able to soften towards others and approach them with more compassion and understanding as well. In a deep way, we can begin to see that we are not separate from one another at all. As James Baldwin said, the moment we cease to hold each other, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. Put another way, Mother Teresa said, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. So while these practices today are focused on holding ourselves with kindness and in letting everything that arises in our experience belong right here and now, they also support us in holding others with compassion and in remembering the ways that we belong to one another. So now just a very practical point. I'd like to have a word about posture before we start the meditation. Generally speaking, it's important when we are meditating to sit in a comfortable way with the body upright and the spine long. You want to be able to be relaxed in the body, but also alert. So you can sit on a chair with your feet flat on the floor, and it's advisable to sit a little forward on your chair, maybe with a pillow behind your low back for support if needed, but avoiding like leaning back in the chair in a way where you can collapse in your low back. And also you could get sleepy with your eyes closed if you're too relaxed. So because you want to have this real balance between alertness and relaxation. So you can sit on a cushion or on a pillow, cross-legged on the floor with some blankets or cushioning underneath for padding if that would feel more comfortable to you. But it's perfectly acceptable, of course, to sit in a chair, just so long as you can be alert and relaxed. And over time, you can play around with what posture supports you best in meditation. And there's really no wrong way to do it, actually, so long as you can be alert and relaxed in the body. So let's meditate together then. If you could take a moment now to find this relaxed but alert posture. I'm actually going to fix the blanket in my chair here. Just take a minute to get comfortable. Oh, and by the way, you can also meditate with the eyes open or closed. I find it really helpful to have my eyes closed in order to tune into my inner experience. But for some people, for a variety of reasons, that may not be appropriate. And so you're also welcome to just have a soft gaze with your eyes downcast. Certainly, you don't want to be looking all around. That would make it hard to focus inwardly. But there's not a rule about that you have to have your eyes open or closed necessarily either. So I'll ring this bell, the one that I did earlier, 3 times to start. And you can just let the sound of the bell be a way to help you drop into the present moment. And then at the end of the meditation, I'll ring the bell 3 times again, and you can stay with the sound of the bell for as long as you can hear it. And when the bell is finished, you can just open your eyes and we'll move into a discussion, okay? So just taking that comfortable, relaxed but alert position and letting your eyes gently close if you're choosing to meditate that way. You might begin by just deepening your breath, taking a few full inhalations, really feeling the belly expand, feeling the chest rise, and exhaling, letting all the air out, noticing the movement of the body with the breath. And then allowing your breath to return to its natural rhythm. And bringing your attention into the body. To begin, I'll invite you to really feel your feet on the floor, perhaps, or tucked under you, depending how you're sitting. But bringing your attention right into the feet. And sensing and feeling the feet from the inside out. Noticing whatever you notice. Perhaps there's a sense of tingling or pulsing. Maybe just a general sense of aliveness. Or maybe it's hard to feel anything at all. Maybe there's a numb sensation. Whatever it is, allowing it to be just as it is. And holding it with a friendly and loving awareness. And sensing and feeling the lower legs. From the inside out. You might sense and feel the length and volume of the leg from the knee down to the ankle. Again, just allowing whatever you notice to be just as it is and softening towards your experience, letting it be. And as if you were moving the spotlight of your attention, bringing the knee joints into your awareness, sensing and feeling the knees, whatever sensation is present for you there, allowing it to be just as it is and perhaps softening towards it. Sensing and feeling the upper leg from the knee to the hip, feeling the length and volume of the leg. And just noticing what you notice, holding it with a loving awareness. Perhaps softening and relaxing if you discover any tension that can be easily released. Now feeling the full length and volume of the legs, all the way down to the feet. You might notice any pressure from where your legs are making contact with the seat beneath you. Feeling the solidness, the reliability of the ground beneath you. Feeling yourself held and supported in this body. And moving the bright light of your awareness to include your hips, your pelvic area, your lower belly, low back. Lighting up in your awareness this lower part of your torso, front to back, side to side. Just noticing what you notice and softening. And shining the bright light of your loving awareness to include your mid torso, front to back, side to side. You might notice the movement of the breath in the body at this point. Tuning in to the subtle sensations. And when you get pulled away into thinking, as you inevitably will, just dropping back into the body. Bringing a loving and kind attention to the movement of the breath there in the torso. Or any other sensations of aliveness, tingling, buzzing. Maybe there's some pain. Allowing it all to be here and holding it in loving awareness. Sliding your attention to the upper torso, to the chest, the heart center, the upper back, the shoulder girdle. Sensing and feeling the body from the inside out, front to back, side to side. Paying an exquisite kind of attention to whatever you discover here and holding it with a loving awareness. And if there's any discomfort, can you just soften towards it? Allow it. But hold it with a lot of compassion and tenderness. Get curious about it. And sliding the attention now to the upper arms, from the shoulder to the elbow, sensing and feeling from the inside out the length and volume of your arms, and bringing a kind curiosity to whatever is arising in your experience. And again, if you get pulled away into thoughts of past or future, just acknowledging that gently and kindly, thinking, and regrounding your attention in this body right now in this moment. Sensing and feeling the elbow joint, and the lower arm from the elbow to the wrist, feeling the length and volume of your arm from the inside out. And now sliding the bright light of your attention into your hands, resting however they are. And sensing and feeling the aliveness in your hands from the inside out. You might notice temperature, warmth, or cool. You might notice a kind of buzzing or tingling, just a sense of vitality. Allowing your attention to be in the body, right here in your hands. Lighting up in your awareness, your thumbs, your fingers, your palms, and again, when you get pulled away, just gently and kindly as you would for a beloved, notice that you've been pulled away and bring your attention right back into the body, right into your hands in this moment. Letting the body be a refuge from thinking, planning, worrying. And doing it all with a gentle, compassionate, and loving attention. Bringing the attention now, sliding like a spotlight up your arms and into your throat, neck, feeling the front of your throat, the sides, the back of the neck. Notice what you notice and then soften. Bringing attention now into all the little muscles of the face and soften there as well. Releasing and relaxing the jaw. Feeling all the sensation inside the mouth, letting the tongue be heavy in the floor of the mouth. Smoothing out the space between the eyebrows. And even sensing and feeling the skull. And now, as if you could zoom out the lens on a camera, rest in awareness of the body as a whole. Sensing and feeling the whole of the body sitting here now. and then soften towards yourself, towards your experience. Feeling all the edges of yourself where the body ends and the air around you begins. And feel yourself grounded, rooted, supported by the earth beneath you, held in a compassionate and loving awareness. And you might tune in now to sounds around you in the environment, widening the attention a bit. Opening wider, expanding that compassionate awareness to take in the sounds that are close by. Perhaps the sound of your own breath or noises in the room, the sound of my voice. And also widening the attention to include further away sounds, perhaps sounds outside of the room. Just opening this loving awareness to include not only the body, but also the sounds around you that just come and go unbidden by you, allowing them to just come and go in your awareness. And again, when you get pulled away, as we all do, to just notice thinking, planning, and then let that go with a loving, compassionate acceptance and drop back into your body, seated right here, right now. To the sounds around you in this present moment. Relaxing back, opening your awareness and softening. Bringing a loving attention to whatever arises. And softening and relaxing back into your body, into the sounds around you right now. And now, as if you were to zoom back in the camera lens of your awareness, I'll invite you to bring your attention to the breath moving in your body. From that widening of awareness from listening, now narrowing the attention again, and just getting really curious again with a loving, attention, getting curious about where you notice the breath in your body, perhaps in your belly, perhaps in your heart center, the chest rising and falling. Perhaps at the nostrils, you can sense the air moving in and out. Wherever you notice the breath most predominantly, just dropping in and getting really curious about the movement of the breath as experienced in your body right now. And when you get pulled away, just noticing lightly, kindly, oh, thinking, and drop back in to follow the movement of the breath in your body. Ever so gently. Softening, relaxing back into a loving awareness that experiences the breath moving in the body. Opening and softening, coming back again and again to the body. This anchor for your loving attention. And when you get pulled away again, notice, lightly name, thinking, and gently tug the attention back. Relax back, soften back into the body, feeling the breath moving just here and now. Nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, just here. Feeling the body seated here, feeling the breath moving through with each inhale and exhale. Holding it all in a loving, compassionate awareness. Coming back again and again. And I'll read a poem now by Donna Faulds. Trust the energy that courses through you. Trust, then take surrender even deeper. Be the energy. Don't push anything away. Follow each sensation back to its source in vastness and pure presence. Emerge so new, so fresh that you don't know who you are. Welcome in the season of monsoons. Be the bridge across the flooded river and the surging torrent underneath. Be unafraid of consummate wonder. Be the energy and blaze a trail across the clear night sky like lightning. Dare to be your own illumination. Thank you all. So feel free to stretch and move your body. Stand up if you want. If you want to shake something out, feel free. But if I could, then I'll just transition and spend a few minutes talking about mindfulness in daily life, if I could. Is that okay if we move forward, or is there? Okay. So I started to say a minute ago in response to what you had said, Matt, that one thing that I have found to be really helpful for me in terms of maintaining mindfulness as I move through my days is to come into my body. And, I'm a psychotherapist in private practice. I sit in this chair most of my working days. And just to, even in the moment that I'm interacting with a client or between sessions, to just feel myself sitting. It's very grounding to just come back to being really. It also helps me to be a lot more present and attuned when I'm fully inhabiting my body. So I think to be intentional about feeling your body as you move through your day, feeling your body as you walk up the stairs, feeling your body as you enter your door of your home or whatever it is a powerful practice. And it's so easy to forget to be in our bodies. But so I just thought of that for one. But I also wanted to say that, people seem to think that there's some sort of gold standard of mindfulness that requires many hours of intense and painful meditation. And to be clear, practicing meditation is absolutely a huge support in cultivating mindfulness. And I strongly encourage you to establish a meditation practice if you don't already have one. But as I said at the beginning, mindfulness is a state. And one can be mindful at any time throughout the day. You don't have to be sitting on a cushion or a chair or listening to some sort of fancy meditation bell to be mindful. And we don't meditate in order to get better at meditating, right? Whatever it even means to be better at meditating. We meditate in order to live more mindful lives. And that's actually harder even than meditating. So I really encourage each of you to think about some activity or activities that you can do mindfully each day. And remember, this just means, all it means is that you're purposefully paying attention to whatever it is that you're doing, experience through your body in that moment, and with a kind and loving awareness. So just for example, you can mindfully brush your teeth, take a shower, wash the dishes, fold the laundry, take a walk, go for a walk, go for a run or get some exercise, go for a hike. Some of you know I'm a mother to 2 young children, and it's amazing how I can sit and read them a story, but be thinking about something else. And so to mindfully read a story to your child, be really present, child or grandchild. You can mindfully have a conversation with your partner or a friend. Again, sometimes we can be really checked out, to be intentional about being present for our loved ones. You can mindfully eat a meal, and this is a big one. It's a really hard one for me personally because it's so tempting to read a news story or reach for my phone, check an email while I'm eating. But if you can be fully present with the experience of eating a meal or preparing and drinking a cup of coffee or tea, it's a very different experience to just be present with a loving intention. You can mindfully put on your clothes. You can mindfully get into bed. You get the point. The point is there's really no limit, right? You can be intentional about being present with a loving and compassionate awareness to any activity that you do in your life. And it's really amazing how much of our lives we spend lost in thought, worrying about something that we have no control over, or rehashing some conversation and thinking about what we should have said, or planning in advance for what we would say, right, in some imaginary conversation that may likely never even happen. And this is not to say, by the way, that there isn't a use for thinking, right, for planning for the future or reflecting on things from our past. Of course, there's a use for that, but it's much better to do that kind of thinking intentionally, right, rather than just having a sort of running commentary chatterbox of thought going all the time. Because when that happens, we constantly miss the simple experiences of, taking a shower or having our morning cup of tea. Many of the examples that I just named, listing off, are very sensory rich experiences. So, for example, thinking about washing the dishes. As I said, it's very easy for me to stand in front of my sink at the end of the day and be totally lost in thought, thinking about the day or planning for the next day or worrying about something or even just kind of daydreaming. But in those moments, I'm zoned out, I'm preoccupied, I'm definitely not present. But there's so much to notice actually in my body about the act of washing the dishes. I can feel myself standing at the sink, feel my feet on the floor. I can feel the warmth of the water running over my hands. I can smell the soap. I can see the shine of the dishes. And when I can remember to do that with this particular example, when I can remember to drop back in and be washing dishes, be back in my body, be back in my senses, it's a really different experience. And I can be a lot more open and relaxed and receptive. Right? We can learn to really be present for our lives, and not all the time. God knows I don't always manage to pull that off. But it's really helpful when I can. It's also very helpful to just set an intention to pause at regular intervals throughout the day. Again, just dropping in, feeling the body, perhaps deepening the breath, just to notice what's arising in your experience and be with it, right? That's what we're practicing here. So it can be helpful to tie this intentional pause to some other moment that you already have a habit around. So maybe you pause before you walk in the door from work, or although many of us are home for work these days, but before you log into your next Zoom call, maybe before or after you eat a meal. And some of you already have maybe a rich prayer life or a habit around having some sort of moment of pause before you eat a meal. And so maybe you just intentionally make that a moment of mindfulness as well. You can do it as soon as you wake up in the morning. You can do it as soon as you turn the light out at bedtime. You can also just set a reminder on your phone or your calendar to go off periodically throughout the day. You can just say pause or breathe. Just finding different ways, whether tethering a moment of mindfulness to something else you already have going, or finding some other way, putting a post-it note on your, oh, there's a woodpecker outside my window. Sorry. A red-headed woodpecker right outside my window eating insects out of the wood. Beautiful. So put a sticky note on your, bathroom mirror or whatever. The point is, find ways to help you remember to be mindful throughout the day. Because some teacher of ours, maybe Kath, you might remember, said like it's easy to be mindful. The tricky part is remembering to be mindful, right? So if you can find some cheats to help you, it could be really useful. So actually, I'd like you to take just a moment right now to reflect on some activity in your daily life that you would like to set an intention around doing more mindfully. Maybe if you have a piece of paper nearby, you could write this down, or actually you can put it in the chat box if you'd like, just to have a little bit of accountability. Sometimes naming something into the group can help with accountability. Just take a minute and think about, is there one or more activities of the day that you would like to set an intention around doing it mindfully? And it can be helpful to hear from others about what you're thinking too. So maybe just take a moment to do that. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because I do want to have an opportunity for another practice period. But spend a moment. Yeah, showering. Good, Carolyn. Watering the plants. That's beautiful. That's a good one. I should do that. I want to allow us to have another opportunity to practice meditation together. And sorry, I'm going to do this again. So if you want to stretch again for a second, or stand up and shake it out before you settle back in. This will not be quite as long as our last one because we don't have as much time, but we'll sit together again for a little bit. And I think my intention will be to leave a little bit more space than I did in the last one. We won't have long periods of silence, but I'll leave a little bit more space. So if there's a period of silence and you start to think, oh gosh, did I lose them? Not to worry, I'm just leaving a little more space. And I'll still be coming in from time to time with guidance. So again, coming into a comfortable seated position, letting the eyes gently close if you'd like, or else having a soft gaze at some fixed point, just a couple feet out in front of you. And again, I'll ring the bell 3 times to start and 3 times to finish. And again, you might begin by deepening your breath, just taking maybe 3 or 4 long, full and intentional breaths in and out. Really feeling the movement of the breath in the body. Bringing that exquisite, curious, and very loving attention to whatever you notice in your experience in your body. And taking some moments to scan through the body. Again, feeling your feet making contact with the floor. Letting the attention settle down into the body. Feeling the full length and volume of the legs. And noticing all the points of contact your body is making with the seat beneath you. Feeling the weight of your body and feeling the solidity of the earth beneath you, holding you and supporting you. Sensing and feeling from the inside out the hips, the torso, front to back, side to side, feeling from the inside out the aliveness that's right here. Feeling the movement of the breath in the body. Perhaps even feeling the beating of the heart. And opening and softening, relaxing back. Bringing a loving, allowing awareness to whatever you discover in your experience right here and now. Sensing and feeling the length and volume of the arms, feeling the hands resting as they are in your lap or wherever they are, just letting them be, lighting them up in your awareness with a loving, allowing attention. Embracing what's right here, whatever it is. Relaxing back and softening. Bringing the attention into the neck and throat and all the little muscles of the face, the skull. Softening any obvious places of tension, just relaxing back, loving what's here. And now sensing and feeling the whole body, breathing, sitting here and now. Feeling all the points of contact the body's making with the earth beneath you, and feeling the air around you, feeling the edges of yourself, and holding it all with a loving awareness. relaxing back, opening and softening, letting the body and the breath be an anchor for your attention when you inevitably get pulled away. Coming back home. Home to your body. And whenever you get pulled away, just gently noticing, kindly, as you would for a good friend, naming, oh, thinking, or planning, and redirecting the attention right here and now in this body, seated here, breathing. Allowing all of your experience to be held in this open and loving awareness. Gently coming back again and again. Feeling your body, feeling your breath, letting your attention be open and receptive, loving and allowing. Cultivating this loving and compassionate attention that is big enough to hold it all, whatever is here. You can relax back into this present moment just as it is, not only not judging it, but embracing it. So we don't have time to debrief that one, but I hope that it was a good experience for you as well. Sometimes I think many of you may have found that a second period of meditation is different than the first. And perhaps your mind was busier, but perhaps you're able to drop in into a little bit more stillness on the second go around. And whatever you experienced is, of course, just fine. But there is a benefit, I will say, and with awareness again, that it's a privilege to be able to do this. But some of you know, you've mentioned experiences on retreats or in monasteries. There is a benefit to having repeated practice periods throughout a day. And if you have the ability and resources and interest to go away on a meditation retreat, I really encourage it. It's very powerful. And we only have a couple of minutes, but I wanted to say a few things about some resources for continuing practice. And most importantly, I'll be emailing you all with a list that my colleagues and friends, Sharon Shelton and Susan Revere, and I put together in advance of what was meant to be an in-person day-long retreat in March before the world ended. Just kidding. I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean. So I do hope, Susan and Sharon and I do still hope to be able to offer an in-person day-long retreat one day. I mean, we will. It's our aspiration. So anyway, in the meantime, I'll send out this little one-pager that has some suggestions. A couple that I'll just call out right now. One is that I use there's many apps, lots of great apps. I'm sure a lot of you know of some of them already. That have guided practices. I personally use Insight Timer, which is a free download for your phone. And I just use it for the bell. It has a nice little digital bell that rings to let me know when my practice period is over, so I don't have to try to keep up with the time. But it has tons of content, lots and lots of guided meditations and even classes and things these days, I think. And there are filters by kind of content area, like type of meditation, or also like what you're wanting to work with. And there's all these filters, so to help you sort of sort through the millions of meditations that are on there. So that's a really useful resource that I'll name. And there's so many amazing meditation and mindfulness teachers, and now in this time of COVID, it's all available on Zoom online. So there's lots and lots of ways to plug in to different communities, and many of those bigger communities were already having virtual offerings. Like Kath and I trained with Tara Brock, who has her community's Insight Meditation Community of Washington, D.C., IMCW. And she gives a talk every Wednesday night, I think it is. And they're all recorded and they're all available for free with donations requested online. So there's just endless resources, both live streaming and available for download and listening at your leisure. But in short, I really would just recommend that you try to find some time to meditate each day, even if it's just, to pick 5 minutes as you start or finish your day. And you could add in more time over time as it feels supportive. And I think you'll find it to be a really powerful and supportive practice, as some of you already know, right? Many of you already know, I think. And clearly all of you are at least interested in exploring. So a plug for a practice. And we're at time. I did just want to close us out with one final, even though we've just emerged from a meditation period, but one final brief sitting period. And I'll end us with a kind of mindful prayer and a last poem, if that's okay. And if you have to jump off since it's right at noon right now, I certainly understand. But for those of you who want to stay for just 2 or 3 more minutes, we'll close that way as a group, okay? Sound good? Okay. So for our final time today, just closing your eyes and coming into a comfortable seated position. Again, deepening the breath briefly. And I'll invite you actually to just take a moment to set an intention for yourself for beyond this workshop as you move into your day and week and life. Is there some intention arising out of your practice today that you'd like to name for yourself, to articulate? Whether it's something like sitting for 5 minutes a day, or something like moving through your life with a loving and open heart, whatever it is, anything at all, but take a moment and maybe crystallize and articulate an intention for yourself. And allow that intention to really absorb. You might imagine it sinking in, opening to it, installing it. And then taking the goodness and the wholesomeness of these practices, the space that we have cultivated together today. And you might imagine expanding the benefits of this practice out, and sort of ever expanding concentric circles, moving out into the world. May the benefits of this practice support not just us, but all people. And imagining the circles of compassion reaching out across our cities and states, wherever we are, across the country, across the world. May each of us feel joy today, and may we delight in the joy of others. May each of us be held in love, rest in love, and be led by love. May each of us love and embrace our whole selves, holding our hurt places with compassion and kindness. And may we hold others who are hurting with kindness and compassion as well. May each of us feel steady and peaceful in our hearts, even when things are hard. And widening out the circle of compassion to include all beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere feel joy today. And may all beings everywhere delight in the joy of others. May all beings everywhere be held in love, rest in love, and be led by love. May all beings everywhere love and embrace their whole selves just as they are. And may they hold their hurt places with kindness and compassion. And may all beings everywhere hold others who are hurting with kindness and compassion too. May all beings everywhere feel steady and peaceful in our hearts, even when things are hard. And I'll close with this, one of my favorite poems by Diane Ackerman called School Prayer. In the name of the daybreak and the eyelids of morning and the wayfaring moon, and the night when it departs, I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, as a healer of misery, as a messenger of wonder, as an architect of peace. In the name of the sun and its mirrors and the day that embraces it and the cloud veils drawn over it and the uttermost night, and the male and the female and the plants bursting with seed and the crowning seasons of the firefly and the apple, I will honor all life wherever and in whatever form it may dwell, on earth, my home, and in the mansions of the stars.